أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله. Inshallah, we continue in our recital of the Hadith from Riyadus Saliheen, and today bi'idhnillah we'll be moving on to the next chapter and reciting on words from Hadith number 1104, and this chapter is called the method of the 2 rak'at of Sunnah before Salatul Fajr. باب تخفيف ركعتي الفجر, chapter number 197. وبيان ما يقرأ فيهما وبيان وقتهما, and the explanation of when what is recited in those 2 rak'at, as well as when those 2 rak'at are prayed, exactly what time in the day or night. First hadith 1104 reads عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي ركعتين خفيفتين بين النداء والإقامة من صلاة الصبح متفق عليه. وفي رواية لها يصلي ركعتي الفجر فيخففها حتى أقول هل قرأ فيهما بأم القرآن. وفي رواية المسلم كان يصلي ركعتي الفجر إذا سمع الأذان ويخففهما, وفي رواية إذا طلع الفجر. So all of these hadith are referring to the methodology and the method of praying the 2 rak'at of Sunnah before Salatul Fajr, and this hadith is narrated by al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiyallahu anha wa ardaha, who is saying that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously in the previous chapter we've read and understood the fact how important the 2 rak'at of Salatul Fajr are. Now we're reading into the method and how to pray them. So Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha reported the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray 2 rak'at of Salatul Fajr, very short prayer between the adhan and the iqamah of the Salatul Fajr. In another narration, Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to perform 2 supererogatory nafil for sunnat rak'at before Fajr, and used to make them very short. And sometimes I used to think, she's saying that I used to think in my mind, because of how short he used to make the sunnah of Salatul Fajr, did he even recite Suratul Fatiha in them or not? From here we learn a very important lesson, is that not all salah has to be excessively long. So some of us imagine the Prophet ﷺ, maybe every single salah that he prayed was extremely long, hours. Of course he did pray salawat that were hours long, but he also sometimes prayed salawat which were very, very short. Namely here, we see that the sunnah of Salatul Fajr, he made it generally, it was quite short prayer. He didn't make very, very long recitation. Of course, the Salatul Fajr, the Jama'ah, the Fard was longer, but the Sunnah was actually very short, and we're about to, in the next few ahadith, we'll see exactly which ayat he used to also recite. In another narration, Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha said that when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to hear the adhan of Fajr, he would perform the 2 rak'at of Sunnah and make them short. So making them short is a common theme about the 2 rak'at before Salatul Fajr. Hafsa radiallahu anha وأرضاها, she narrates وعن حفصة رضي الله عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا أذن المؤذن للصبح وبدأ الصبح صلى ركعتين خفيفتين متفق عليه. وفي رواية المسلم كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا طلع الفجر لا يصلي إلا ركعتين خفيفتين. Hafsa رضي الله عنها وأرضاها is narrating that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, whenever the mu'adhin used to do adhan of Salatul Subh, i.e. do the Salatul Fajr, he used to pray 2 very short, translation, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to perform 2 very short rak'at when it was dawn and the mu'adhin called for the adhan of Salatul Fajr. Narrated by both Imam Bukhari and Muslim. Next hadith, وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي من الليل مثنى ويوتر بركعة من آخر الليل ويصلي ركعتين قبل صلاة الغداة وكان الأذان بأذنيه. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي من الليل مثنى ويوتر بركعة من آخر الليل ويصلي الركعتين قبل صلاة الغداة وكان الأذان بأذنيه. Which means that Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is narrating that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to perform his optional sunnah 2 rak'at. He used to perform the Salatul Layl the night prayer, i.e. Qiyamul Layl, i.e. the salah that you pray after the Sunnah of Isha, any optional prayer that he would pray the night prayer, Salatul Layl, Mathna Mathna, 2 by 2, 2 by 2. So the norm is to pray the night prayer, Qiyamul Layl, as we're doing Taraweeh or as you're doing Tahajjud, 2 rak'at, 2 rak'at. And then he would do at the end of it 1 rak'ah as witr. He used to pray witr as 1 rak'ah individually, independently by itself, and that would be the witr. So 8, and then he would do witr, or he would do 8, he would do 10, and then he'd do 1 rak'ah as witr, which would be the 11th rak'ah. Then he would perform the 2 rak'at after the witr had finished. Then he would pray the 2 rak'at of Salatul Fajr after hearing the adhan of Salatul Fajr, and he would make them so brief as if he could hear the iqamah being called. So again, we're hearing from Ummahatul Mu'mineen, as well as we're hearing from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, they used to make the Sunnah of Salatul Fajr very short, which means that it's Sunnah to make it short, which means that you'll get the full reward even if you made it short. Like I said before, not every salah, because sometimes when you pray salah, the sunnah a bit fast, and we think, well, this is not proper salah. But if you are focused in your salah, if you have khushu' and khudu' in your salah, even if they are short, then they are of extreme value. And it is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to recite the sunnah of Salatul Fajr as short. We also learn here, and it's an indication to how the witr is prayed and how the Salatul Layl is prayed, which is the Qiyamul Layl Tahajjud, which is 2 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah, 2 rak'ah. It is not normal to pray them as 4 rak'ah. So to pray 2 rakat, salam, 2 rakat, salam, and so on. Of course, we know that with the methodology of witr, there is some ikhtilaf between the fuqaha. Namely, that Sayyidina al-Imam Malik and Sayyidina al-Imam al-Shafi'i and Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they prayed the witr as 1 rak'ah independently after the 2 rak'at of taslim. And they would do a second taslim for the single rak'ah, like we do in Salat Tarawih and Darul Ummah. In Qiyamul Layl in Ramadan, we do like that because this was adopted many years back to facilitate for people to do qunut loudly and to feel the emotion, to make dua from their heart and so on. As for Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi and his madhab, then they pray the witr in 3 rak'at with 1 taslim, and this is also jaiz and evident from the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha. There's no problem with it whatsoever, and you shouldn't, there's no problem. Basically, both are jaiz and both are evident and both are strong and both are reliable and authentic. Nonetheless, so we see that the Prophet ﷺ, ultimately the end result is the same, which is what? The Prophet ﷺ used to pray 8 rak'at of tahajjud, and he used to pray witr as either 3 rak'ats, which would make it 11 in total, or as 1 rak'ah preceding is 2, which would still make it 11 rak'at in the night, which is after Salatul Isha. For those who want to pray Qiyamul Layl and Tahajjud, then you should, and you're certain that you will be able to wake up for your Qiyamul Layl because you have a very strong routine, then you should delay your witr until you have prayed your Tahajjud. For those who cannot and are not sure if they can wake up for Tahajjud, then they must pray their witr immediately before going to sleep. For the person who's prayed their witr and gone to sleep, if they happen to wake up again before Salatul Fajr, and there is enough time to pray some rak'at of Qiyamul Layl of Tahajjud, then even though they have already prayed their witr, they are still allowed to pray some more optional prayer. So don't think that just because you've prayed your witr as a precautionary measure, because you're not sure if you can wake up for Tahajjud or not, don't think that you are not allowed to thereafter pray enough for rak'at. You are allowed. And if you wake up for Qiyamul, if you wake up 20 minutes before Salatul Fajr or 10 minutes or even 5 minutes and you can do wudu, then you can still pray 2 rak'at, and it's of huge value, and the ajr and the reward and the benefit of Qiyamul Layl is too much and too many. And you know some of them, the fact that the Prophet ﷺ taught us that Allah Azza wa Jal accepts the dua. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jal descends in a way that is suitable, laysa kamithlihi shay', and he then asks his servants to ask for anything. هل من سائل فأعطيه? Is there anyone that wants anything? I'll give it to you. هل من مستغفر فأغفر له? Is there anyone that will istighfar? I will give forgiveness to you. So this is the best time to do dua in Qiyamul Layl, third portion of the night, in sujood, in sujood, in qiyam, and etc. Even outside of salah, even if you just want to make dua. Even if, for example, now one day you wake up 5 minutes before Salatul Fajr, you don't have the energy or you don't have the time to wake up and do wudu and do some salah, you can still make dua in that time. There's no restriction there. You can still make dua while you're in bed. You're feeling extremely tired, you can still make dua at that time. You can make dua with your mouth, you can make dua with your mind. But you shouldn't miss out that opportunity where you can make the most of it, at the dua, with dua at the minimum. Salah, of course, is the ideal to pray Qiyamul Layl. The next hadith is being narrated by Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, and it reads as follows. Hadith number 1000 1107 وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يقرأ في ركعتي الفجر في الأولى منهما قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب الأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى والنبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون, which is the ayah number 136 from Surah Al-Baqarah. He used to, according to this narration of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, in the first rak'ah he would recite قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي موسى وعيسى وما أوتي النبيون من ربهم لا نفرق بين أحد منهم ونحن له مسلمون. One ayah in the first rak'ah. And in the second rak'ah he would recite the ayah of Surah Ali Imran, which is towards the end of Juz 3, and it reads as follows. He would recite, just a second, he said قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله فإن تولوا فقولوا اشهدوا بأننا مسلمون. Or in another narration he used to recite this one ربنا, he used to recite آمنا بالله قل يا أهل الكتاب. He used to also recite فلما أحس عيسى منهم الكفر قال من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله آمنا بالله واشهد بأننا مسلمون. Now what's very, very interesting is that all of these three ayat, the end of it is Muslimun, that we are Muslims. So the ayah at the end of Surah Juz 1, قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, also ends with وَنَحْنُ لَهُ مُسْلِمُونَ. And then also, just a moment Habibi, also the ayat of Surah Al-Imran, which are فَلَمَّا حَسَّ عِيسَى, ayah number 52, is also وَشَهِدْ بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ, testify that we are Muslims. And also the ayah number 64 of Surah Al-Imran, which is just a few lines later, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا, the end of it also فَقُولُوا اشْهَدُوا بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ, say, O Prophet Muhammad, testify all of you that I am indeed, that we are indeed from the Muslims. Yes, sir.
I also noticed, also about the also noticed that it's referring to terms of the Christians.
Yes,
So
yes.
Is there significance as to why you recited those ayahs? It seems like it's like a da'wah.
Perhaps, Allahu A'lam, perhaps it could be, yes. There is indeed the reiteration of the fact that we are Muslim. And in for example, also in the one just before فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ, when Sayyidina Isa felt from them kufr, i.e. from his followers, from the Masihiyyin, if you like, from the Ansar, from the Nasara, that that he said to them, he basically testified to them that I am from the Muslims. There is also a rhythm in it, that قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, say that we believe in the previous prophets and so on. Good point to notice. Barakallahu fiqh Habib. Shukran. طيب, next one, hadith number 1108 وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قرأ في ركعتي الفجر قل يا أيها الكافرون وقل هو الله أحد. The Sayyidina Abu Hurairah is narrating that the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم used to recite in the first rak'ah of the Sunnah of Salatul Fajr Kafirun, and the second rak'ah قل هو الله أحد. That's what's more commonly known as the Sunnah, to recite first rak'ah Kafirun, second rak'ah also Qul Huwallahu Ahad. This is also the same surahs they recite in, for example, after your tawaf when you stand in Maqam Ibrahim and so on. So this tends to be also a sunnah of reciting in sunnah, Kafirun and Suratul Ikhlas in the second rak'ah. 1109 وعن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال رقمت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شهرا يقرأ في الركعتين قبل الفجر قل يا أيها الكافرون وقل هو الله أحد. This is just emphasizing what is recited previously. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar is saying that I accompanied the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم for an entire month. He said that I observed the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم for 1 month in two, and he would recite in the first two rak'at of Salatul Fajr, as in the Sunnah, with Kafirun and Qul Huwallahu Ahad, first and second rak'ah. This is a sunnah that's less spoken about, but I don't know if you knew about this sunnah. There is a sunnah that says that after you pray your sunnah of Salatul Fajr, you should pray them when the adhan is called. But then there is a gap usually of 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It is actually from the sunnah to lie down in between the sunnah of Fajr and the fard of Fajr. Lie down. There's no mention of sleeping. If you sleep, of course, you have to do wudu. But if you do go fall asleep and do wudu, khalas, is also acceptable. But lying down was from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ between Salatul Fajr sunnah and Salatul Fajr salah. Notice here that this is extremely beneficial for those who pray Qiyamul Layl. If you've been praying Qiyamul Layl, Tahajjud, and then you just finished your witr, and the adhan was called, or as in adhan was called referring to the time has begun of Fajr, then you prayed the sunnah of Fajr, very short because you're tired from the Qiyamul Layl and the witr, and then you have a lie down for 10-15 minutes. You refresh your body, and you're ready for Salatul Fajr. Now this lying down is optional. If it's going to lead you to miss the whole of Fajr and wake up after sunrise at 10 a.m., then this is no longer sunnah for you. This should become disliked for you and even lead you to haram, which is missing the salah. It's only for those who are 100% sure. Is this sunnah to be at home, to lie down at home, or to lie down in the masjid? There is opinions on both sides. Some ulama have said this sunnah is at home, you lie down, because the Prophet ﷺ used to pray his sunnah at home. And it's not recorded that he would come into the masjid and pray sunnah and then lie down there. Others have said, Imam Nawawi and other scholars have said that even if it was in the masjid, it would still be considered from the sunnah. If someone comes to the masjid and they just lie down for a couple of minutes before the imam is leading the Salatul Fajr in Jama'ah. You've never seen that in any masjid, have you? Maybe if you go to the Haramain, you might see it in Mecca, Medina, because people are waiting for hours. But this is in fact from the tradition of the Prophet ﷺ. We'll read the hadith pertaining to it, chapter number 198. باب استحباب الاضطجاع بين ركعتي الفجر على جنبه الأيمن والحث عليه سواء كان تهجد بالليل أم لا. تهجد بالليل أم لا. The chapter of noting that it is mustahab to lie down between the two rak'at of Salatul Fajr, sunnah, and the fard of it on his right hand side. So we're not talking about full on go to bed and tuck yourself in. Just lie down on his right hand side, and he often use his hand like that to lean on it. And this is regardless of whether you prayed tahajjud in the night. Though for those who prayed tahajjud, it would be more beneficial for them because they get a bit of a rest before the long Salatul Fajr. And our long Salatul Fajr is not long at all. Our long Salatul Fajr is 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes. The long Salatul Fajr of the Prophet ﷺ would last into the hour, would last into half an hour easily. But of course we understand that we don't want to be from the fattaneen, we don't want to cause fitna for people, especially the elderly people in our community. And mashallah, sometimes we have some young energetic men coming and say, Shaykh, why do you make the Fajr long? This guy comes for a month, it doesn't come for the rest of the year, and he wants to make the first Salatul Fajr long. What about the elders that are here every single day? We have to take care of them more because they are here more than you. So mashallah, if I see this jama'ah is now, the percentage of the youngsters is much more than the elders, khalas, we'll say, let's make it long, let's make half an hour. We'll do half a juz in each Salatul Fajr. We'll do a khatam like that, quicker. So nonetheless, this hadith reads 1110 1110 عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلى ركعتي الفجر اضطجع على شقه الأيمن رواه البخاري. Aisha رضي الله عنها وأرضاها المؤمنين, she is one of the most knowledgeable of the Sahaba and the Sahabiyat. She is saying the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to lie down on his right hand side whenever after he used to pray the Salatul Fajr Sunnah. وعنها قالت كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي فيما بين أن يفرغ من صلاته العشاء إلى الفجر 11 ركعة. First part, she is also narrating that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray between when he finishes from Salatul Isha, and that of course includes the Salatul Isha Fard and the Sunnah of it, the Sunnah Ratiba of it, because attached to it. After that, between that and Fajr, he used to pray another 11 rak'at, which are the 8 rak'at of Tahajjud and the 3 rak'at of Witr, or if you want to count the other way, then 1 rak'at of Witr and then 10 before. And then he said, يُسَلِّمُ بَيْنَ كُلِّ رَكْعَتَيْنِ. He used to make salam between every 2 rak'at of the Sunnah. After Isha, the Sunnah, and of course all the Qiyamul Layl Tahajjud. وَيُوتِرُ بِوَاحِدَةٍ. And he used to make witr with 1. She's the same one that also narrated. She is also the same narrator of the hadith of the witr of 3 rak'at and 1 salam. فإذا سكت المؤذن من صلاة الفجر وتبين له الفجر جاء المؤذن قام فركع ركعتين خفيفتين ثم اضطجع على شق الأيمن هكذا. So she's giving you a full description of how the Prophet ﷺ used to spend his nights. As you know, it's also from the Sunnah that after Salatul Isha, the Prophet ﷺ used to go home straight away. And he used to, do his adhkar and his ibadat, and he would also then go to sleep. And then he would wake up in the third portion of the night, and he would do wudu, and he would stand in Qiyam al-Layl, he'd make his Qiyam al-Layl long, astaghfirullah. He would make his Qiyam al-Layl long, astaghfirullah. He would make his Qiyam al-Layl very long in the third portion of the night. And this is also, it was actually wajib for the Prophet ﷺ to pray Qiyam al-Layl. And then he used to pray in his Qiyam al-Layl, 2 rak'at, he used to make salat, he used to make salam between each 2 rak'at, after each rak'at, and then he used to make his witr. And then after that, when the mu'adhin had called the Salatul Fajr, i.e. the Salat Fajr time is entered, and the Fajr became clear, then he used to pray 2 rak'at of Sunnah. Then he used to lie down on his right hand side for a little bit, and then the Iqamah used to be called, and he used to go out for the Iqamah, and he used to lead the Salah. 1112 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلى أحدكم ركعتي الفجر فليضطجع على يمينه. Now here the Prophet ﷺ is actually commanding it. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah's narration, the Prophet ﷺ said, if any of you, when any of you have prayed the 2 rak'at of Salatul Fajr, then lie down on your right hand side after it before Salatul Fajr, before the Jama'ah itself. And so from here we learn that it is indeed from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ if someone wanted to lie down. Of course, guaranteeing that you will not miss your fard itself. If you're going to miss it, then make sure you pray your fard first. With that, inshallah, we'll stop at that chapter. Inshallah, next chapter is going to be about the Sunnah of Salatul Dhuhr and how it's prayed, what are the numbers, and so on and so forth. Here she mentioned, Aisha radiallahu anha, that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray 11 rak'at in the night. Here, this is where the big debate kicks off between the 8 rak'ah and 10 rak'at of Taraweeh. Because the brothers who believe it's 8 rak'at, the people that believe it's 8 rak'at, this is one of the ahadith, and also there's other evidence as well. But notice here that she's talking about, and for those who say no, it's actually this 8 was referring to the normal tahajjud that he would pray every single night. It's not talking about the Taraweeh, because this is outside of Ramadan as well. So are you telling us that either it's one of the two? Either he was praying Taraweeh outside of Ramadan, or that in Ramadan he wasn't praying anything extra. Is any of them possible? That's the argument that they come with. So of course, the Prophet ﷺ led the Sahaba in Taraweeh during his lifetime. Then it was also carried on by the Sahaba in many, many groups, smaller jama'at, after the Prophet ﷺ stopped leading them, so they doesn't become wajib. So it doesn't mean that the 20 rak'at Taraweeh stopped. It means that they were praying in smaller congregations. For the hikmah the Prophet ﷺ saw in that. And then when Sayyidina Umar came, in the second of the Khulafa al-Rashidun, he saw that people are praying in many different congregations. So he made all of them under one imam. And so all of them prayed under the same imam. That was also 20 rak'at. Now here there is something called when one Sahabi or the Khalifa, when the Imam makes a ruling and the other Sahaba do not condemn it, do not argue against it, just accept it silently, there's something called Ijma' Sukuti. It's called the consensus of silence. I either accepted, so they remain silent. That is basically understood that. Is that an evidence? According to some scholars, it is an evidence. Others may argue whether it's an evidence or not. But nonetheless, there is huge amount of evidence that Taraweeh is actually 20 rak'at. And it is therefore, that's why it's still prayed as 20 in the major masajid of the world, including the Haramain al-Sharifain, including, I believe also in Aqsa. I have to double check. Does anyone know if they pray 20 rak'at in Aqsa? I would assume that they do. And other masajid, of course. When I was in Egypt, I prayed in Azhar sometimes. And basically they also pray 20 rak'at, even though other masajid pray 8 in communities and localities and so on. Now, having said that, of course, I accept there is a significant debate about the topic, but this is why we pray 20. and we believe that this is the stronger opinion, and we follow that stronger opinion, we pray 20. And the person who prays 20 will definitely, with no doubt whatsoever, will get more reward. Because in that, there is of course following of the sunnah, because the Prophet said, عليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين, that you should follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the Khulafa al-Rashidun, and there is no doubt that this is from the sunnah of the Khulafa al-Rashidun as well as from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Furthermore, there is other hadith that say the person who remains with the Imam until the end of the Qiyam, then they have a special reward for that as well. Of course, there is more of ihya of layali of Ramadan, there is more Qiyamul Layl by praying 20. There is more sujood, more ruku', more tashahhud, more tahiyyat, more Allahumma salli, Allahumma barik. And you're also, of course, completing the juz as well of the Quran. So there's more tilawah, more ruku', more sujood. There is more ibadah. And this is exactly in line with the spirit of Ramadan. So I encourage all of us who may be listening to this or even accepting this advice, that when Ramadan comes, don't run away after 8. Especially now, because mashallah, you've got long nights now. You'll find that the first Tarawih is quite early. It's like 9 o'clock or 8:30 or something. That's really early, right? Remember when you were starting Tarawih like 10 something, 10:45, 10 back when Ramadan a few years ago, when Ramadan was in summertime. Now, mashallah, Tarawih is very early. Ramadan is early as well. So, inshallah, pray all of it. You'll feel the energy, you'll feel the barakah, you'll feel the ajr, because the Prophet said, man qama Ramadan imana wa ihtisaba, whomsoever has qiyamul layl of Ramadan, with iman and ihtisab, with faith and conviction and expectation of reward from Allah, they will have their previous sins forgiven. Subhanallah. May Allah grant us all of that. Ameen. In our last lesson, we were studying, of course, in our continuation of Mustalah, we said that when a chain is disconnected, the disconnected chain of narration has got a few different names. The first one was Mursal, and Mursal, we've explained what that is. If you don't know what it is, go back to it. I don't want to say it right now because I don't want to confuse your mind. We also explained what Mu'allaq is. If you don't know what that is, go back to last week's lesson and you'll find it there. Today, we're going to do 2 more words, and hopefully, inshallah, you try to remember that. Mu'dal, they translate it as perplexing. So, all 4 of these are names of different types of disconnected chains. We've already spoken about, of course, the types of connected chains and the types of Sahih and Hasan and Da'if and so on. We've spoken about all of that before. It's there. I think this is Mustalah episode 11 or 12 or something. It's there in the YouTube series. So Mu'dal is a sanad where there is 2 or more narrators consecutively missing from any part. Meaning in the sanad, there isn't just one person missing. There is 2 or more missing in the sanad. That's called Mu'dal. Perplexing. Oh, what's going on? This is not an acceptable sanad. Okay? And then there's also another time it's called Munqata'. It's just disconnected, discontinuity. This is an isnad where there is 1 or more narrators missing in it. However, the omission is not consecutive. So there is a missing one here, missing one there, top of the chain, middle of the chain, bottom of the chain. So Mu'dal is 2 or more consecutive. And Munqata' is cut off, but 1 or more, but at different places of the chain. Again, this will probably never affect you in your life, because you will look at a hadith and you'll find out whether it's sahih or da'if by looking at the hukum of the muhaddith. So Bukhari collected in the sahih, that means sahih. Muslim connected in the sahih, so it's sahih. Riyadus Saliheen, Imam Nawawi collected it, so it's sahih. Like that kind of stuff. We go by the comments and the hukum of the muhaddithin. But this is, of course, theory, and it's beneficial for students of knowledge. So now, when you come across a hadith that's got munqata'u sanad, disconnected chain, what do you do with it? The munqata'u sanad hadith is rejected. Why? Due to the fact that it has missing narrators, and these narrators are unknown. First of all, it has got missing narrators, and if narrators are unknown, then it's not ittisalu sanad, it's not a connected chain, so we can't rely upon such a hadith, because it's not been transmitted continuously. So it's rejected. Therefore, his status cannot be, as in if you don't know who the chain narrators are, you don't know what their status is, are they reliable, are they not, etc. Do you see? So that's why the munqata'u sanad, the disconnected chain ahadith, are rejected, i.e. they're not accepted as authentic messages from the Prophet ﷺ. And again, the muhaddithin will make a hukum on that, and they'll make that clear. There are some exceptions. There are some exceptions. What are these exceptions? What do I mean by there are some exceptions? Exceptions from what? We are saying that if there is a disconnection, discontinuity in a chain, that chain is rejected. But there are some exceptions, i.e. sometimes those disconnected chains may be accepted. What are those exceptions? What we're about to explain now. The exception is the mursal of a companion. Meaning, where a companion skips the companion from whom he heard and quotes directly from the Prophet ﷺ. We'll leave this section for next time. Just remember what mu'dal is and what munqata is. And a disconnected chain is rejected, is not accepted as an authentic source of information. Jazakumullah khairan. Are there any questions? No?
I asked you a question.
Oh yes, you did last time, didn't you? SubhanAllah, I completely forgot. If you can remind me of the question again.
Can you have multiple
Actually, no, I did check up, yes.
intention?
Yes, you can.
You can.
You can. In nafil ibadah and in sunnah ibadah, you can have multiple intentions. But in fard, you can only have one intention.
For sure.
Yeah. But in nafil, you can have multiple intentions. So you can have the intention of praying Salatul Fajr Sunnah as well as Dukhul Masjid, both in one. And that will increase your reward. So that will increase the reward of the intention. But of course, if you prayed it separately, there will be more ajr for the salah. As in, if you prayed it separately, there is more ajr, no doubt. But if
for sure,
yeah.
But if you don't have time.
Yeah, you can make multiple intentions for nafil, yes. Yes.
In a witr prayer, for example, if it's one prayer, one rak'ah, based on is a Surah Al-Ikhlas or Surah Al-Kafirun to recite it.
Allah Alam is free. You can recite whatever you like, but Surah Al-Ikhlas would be better because it's more beloved, and the Prophet ﷺ accepted the Sahabi who said he loves to recite in it.
So is that possible for if you pray 3 rak'ah with it?
Yeah.
Normally I do 3 rak'ah.
Yes.
For first one is going to be Surah Al-A'la.
Yes.
Surah Al-A'la.
That's how it should be, yes.
Yeah. Surah
Kafirun and
Al-Ikhlas.
yes, correct. That's how it should be. That's good. That is the correct way. Any other questions? Yes, brother.
So there's a sunnah that when you enter the mosque, you should pray 2 rakah sunnah before
Yes.
sitting down. So if you, let's say it's Zohar, and you want to pray the 4 sunnah mu'akkada before Jama'ah, if you pray that, does that, let's say if you pray that, you don't have to pray.
So if you did pray, if you had time to pray both, you should pray both. You should pray the 2 rak'at of entry to the masjid. If you have time and if you want to, you should pray both. And then the 4. But if, say, for example, like the Hajj was asking, if you have limited time and you can only pray the 4, then are you allowed to have multiple intentions? Are you allowed to intend that this is, Ya Allah, accept this as my entry to the masjid as well as my sunnah of the dhuhr? The answer is yes, you can. And this multiple intention is only allowed in nafil or optional prayers, not in fard. You can't say, Allah, I'm praying dhuhr and asr together now. You can't do that. So only for nafil and sunnah you're allowed to have multiple intentions. Yes, Akhi, what's your question?
Yeah, so if you recite a sajda, if the sajda wajib,
This is according to Ahnaf is wajib, according to other madhab is sunnah.
so what if you got like 100 sajda to think of?
You'll make them up consecutively.
So what, separate intention each time?
Yes, because you can make the intention of is not that significant because you can, as you know, sajda tilawa can be done from sitting. You could be sitting down in tashahhud position, Allahu Akbar, subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, like that. You don't have to stand up and GC, so you can do from sitting. Barakallahu feek. Any other questions? Yes.
You know how you said after 8 rakats you shouldn't leave. What if you're leaving because you've got work and that you've got work early morning and that work is ibadah?
No problem at all. If you have to leave, you have to leave. It's not a big deal. We're just talking about where the opinions came from. And at the end of the day, everyone accepts that this salah is sunnah mu'akkada. There is no significant fight in that regard. We're just saying that if you were to choose between, if you had an option of praying 8 or 20, you should definitely pray 20. If you're not doing anything, because some people just literally leave out of laziness. Others leave because they think it's wrong to pray 20. You'd be surprised. There are actually people that think it's wrong to pray 20. They think you have to pray 8. So this is what we're talking about. It's definitely better to pray 20, and it's from the sunnah to pray 20, and it's better to pray 20.
You
That's
have
all.
a choice to pray 20 or to pray 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, it's better to pray 20. That's my encouragement. We should pray more. More is better, inshallah.
In some places they pray even, like, I heard, I don't know if it's true, like 30 or
36, Imam Malik's opinion, yes, they have more. And there's a reason for that. Because Taraweeh actually originally means to take rest between your Qiyam al-Layl, and they make it extremely long. And there's a history behind how it became 36, but yeah, it is also there. So 20 is the middle way. Ummatan wasat. Of course, I do accept that this Ummatan wasat is talking about something else, but I'm just making a comment. Which is that 20 is good, inshallah, and there's nothing wrong with it. And where you can, if you don't have a reason not to, you should pray 20, inshallah. Yes, sir.
The verse mentioning around the Quran of Fajr is witnessed, is that referring to the recitation inside the prayer?
Yes, correct. But also it could be the Quran of Fajr, because any salah, any tilawah that is done during Fajr time, it could be even the tilawah itself, because this is the time of transition of the malaika. So that is why it's preferred that after Salatul Fajr you should start Quran, you should do adhkar, you should remain in a position you should remain in your Mustalah if you can, or wherever you can. If you should go home and carry on in your Mustalah, carry on in the designated space, carry on in the designated places of prayer, and do adhkar. So the Quran al-Fajr, referring to the Salatul Fajr, that is of course known. But of course if you recite Quran as well, because the ayah would include it. The ayah doesn't miss that. Ayah is inclusive of that as well, Quran al-Fajr. Yes, brother?
Is Qiyam al-Layl the same as Tahajjud?
Yes. Qiyam al-Layl is the same as Tahajjud. Qiyam al-Layl just means standing in the night, and Tahajjud is of course Tahajjud. So yeah, any prayer in the night is Qiyam al-Layl.
And you need to sleep for Tahajjud to be...
You don't have to sleep, but you should sleep. It's from the Sunnah to sleep, but you don't have to sleep. Yes.
Is the last third of the night calculated by sunset to sunrise?
Correct. No, from to sun to Subh Sadiq. To beginning of Fajr.
So related to the question the brother asked about tahajjud. So you said that there is no difference. So does that mean that if you sleep and then you wake up to pray Qiyamul Layl, you don't get a reward?
No. I said it's better to
Okay.
sleep, but you can also pray without sleeping. The Sunnah is to sleep, but if you want to pray without sleeping, it's also jaiz. Yes.
Are we to, if when we're praying Qiyam al-Layl, are we to recite loudly or?
You can recite loudly indeed. Yeah, you should recite loudly. In fact, it's preferred if you recite loudly, if you can recite loudly. And this is the same for also any other salah, even if it's fard. If you're praying alone, you should recite loudly. A lot of people don't know the Sunnah. That even if you're praying the salah alone at home, it's better that you recite it loudly. The loud prayers, of course. If it's Maghrib, Isha and Fajr, you don't pray Asr loudly, as you know. But yeah, even if you're praying alone, the fara'id, you should pray loudly. The loud prayers, and nafil salahs, the night prayers I'm talking about, you should recite them also loudly. Anything else, gentlemen, brothers? Yes?
Brother, will you carry on these talks during Ramadan?
It will be slightly different timing because of course after Isha is Taraweeh, so it's not going to be after Isha. But what we'll do is this particular class, the Hadith class, will be moving to after Asr. Other classes, the Quran classes, which is on tomorrow, will become every day after Dhuhr. And the Islamic Studies class will be taking a pause temporarily until end of Ramadan. So 2 of the 3 classes will be pausing. No, 2 of the 3 classes will be continuing, 1 will be pausing. Hadith will go to Thursdays, but after Asr, and the Quran class will be every day after Salatul Dhuhr. We'll be reciting Quran together and finishing a khatma like that, like we did last year. Inshallah, it's very nice. You should try to join that, because a lot of the time, you want to do a khatam of the Quran, but you don't find the motivation, you don't find the energy, you fall behind. So if you got some time after Dhuhr, pop into the masjid, and you can join us. Take about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then inshallah that we recite it together. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.